Finding angles. So this one we're kind of go backwards. So the last time we had equations like this, right? Where we had to solve for the side. And in this lesson we're gonna go backwards. We're gonna have equations like this, where we have to solve for the angle. So the question I asked is, how do you get rid of the trig function? Right? It's the sine of something. How do you cancel that out? Well, it's actually pretty straightforward. What we do here is we take the inverse of sine inverse of both sides. So it's a function that cancels out sine, and it'll let us know what angle it is. So we're going to take the sine inverse of both sides. These will cancel. You get theta equals whatever sine inverse of this is. And I have a calculator. Let's plug it in. So we're going to get sine inverse on the calculator. You can see it's here in the second function. So second sine inverse 2/5 what I had. And we get about 23.36, 23.6. 23.6 degrees. So that's how you solve for an angle when you have a sine or cosine function or tan function. You do inverse you do inverse of that trig function. Okay, let's do an example or two. So we're gonna set up the same way we did the last lesson. You label your angle, so that's the angle we're talking about. And you want to label the sides. So this is opposite. Here's the right angle. So it's hypotenuse. It makes this side adjacent, but I don't care about that one. We use SOHCAHTOA. So we go, okay, I have opposite and hypotenuse, so that's going to be so. So sine of theta. Theta is just a variable. We tend to use theta when it's angles. We use Greek letters when it's angles generally. Equals opposite 2 over adjacent 3. And then we want to solve this. We're going to do inverse sine of both sides. Inverse sine of this side. Inverse sine of this side. Inverse and function cancel each other out. You just get the angle. And then this you just type into your calculator. Sine inverse of 2/3. I'm just going to go up there and change the 5 to a 3. And get 41.8. 3/6. And there we go. Next one, same idea, right? Highlight your angle. Label the sides in your head. This is opposite. This is opposite the angle. Here's my right angle. This is hypotenuse, which I don't care about in this case. This is my adjacent. So we have adjacent and opposite, which makes A and O. So TOA. So we're going to set up tan of my angle equals opposite of adjacent, 10 over 7. We'll get rid of the tan. So we'll take tan inverse of both sides. These will cancel. Theta will equal 10 versus 7. 10 over 7. Use our calculator. And we get 55 degrees. Last one here. So we want to solve for all the variables, x and y, and theta. So solve for all this. So we got to figure out where we start. And I think you can start when you have 2 of something, which would be right here. Right, you can't start anywhere here because I only have one solid value. I can start right here though. I have the hypotenuse and an angle. So let's start there. Here's my angle, which makes this opposite, and hypotenuse, because right here's my right angle. So I could use sine to figure out what x is. Sine of 38 equals x over 10. Super simple. Just multiply both sides by 10, so I get 10 times sine of 38 equals x. Let's type that into our calculator. Something like that. It's like 6.16. We need 36 again. So this is my x. It's approximately 6.16. By the way, just keep in mind, if you do sine of 38, make sure to close the parenthesis before you times by 10. So it should look like this. Right, same answer. If you don't close the parenthesis, if you just get lazy and do this times 10, then you're going to get sine of 380, which would be a totally different answer. So make sure to close the parenthesis if you're doing it the opposite way. Anyway, so I get x equals 6.16. So now we have to try to solve for y and theta. Now I could solve for theta pretty easily. Same idea. I have a couple sides, so I guess let's do that. So let's do theta next. Right, here's my angle. opposites 6.1. Here's my right angle, so my hypotenuse is 8. So it's opposite and hypotenuse, so it's sine. Sine of theta equals 6.168. Now I'm going to put in my calculator. What I'm going to use, though, I'm not going to use the rounded value. I'm going to use the answer I actually had up here. So we're going to use sine inverse of both sides. And I'm going to use 6.16. I'm going to use the answer I actually have up here, divided by 8. Alright, so we're going to do sine inverse of both sides. And I'm going to get theta is approximately 50.3. So there's my angle. Okay, now the last part I gotta solve for all of y, which is all this. Now it looks like it's a right angle, but I can't just assume that. Like, it looks like I do a squared, b squared, c squared, but well, we can't assume. So instead, and actually it might not be. Instead, we're just gonna figure out what this missing side is. So I have a right triangle here, so I could do a squared, b squared, c squared for this one. I have a right triangle here, so I could do a squared, b squared, c squared for this one. And I'm gonna do that, or you can use the angles, whichever way you want to do it. But for this part, I'll do a right triangle that is 10, 6.16. And that part of y, not all of y, let's make another equation up. Let's say a. And then for this side of the right triangle, I would do another triangle here, which is 8, 6.16, and then say b. Then all I gotta do to solve for y is do a plus b. So I'm gonna do this side, just use my calculator. I'm gonna skip a little steps. I'm gonna do square roots. Probably shouldn't skip steps. Okay, let's put that in there and right. So now in this case, it's gonna be 6.16 squared plus a squared equals 10 squared. So it's gonna be a squared is gonna equal 10 squared minus 6.6 squared. So 10 squared minus 6.16 squared, then square root it. So my a here equals approximately 7.877. So that's this part. Then my b, right, we're going to use this side here. Same idea, right? It's going to be b squared plus 6.16 squared plus 8 squared. So it's going to be, equals 8 squared. So we're going to do 8 squared minus 6.16 squared. And we're going to square root that. And I get 4.52. We add those two up. Add this answer plus my answer over there. And we get the total score, which is 12.4 if you do 36. So there's my y. And there we go. That's the lesson.